welcome you to Xchanges Gallery and Studios. And we're grateful for the opportunity to undertake and share our creative work on the unceded territories of the Algonquin-speaking people, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations. As neighbors and friends, we work to create a culture in which the truth is spoken and concerns are acknowledged, and where we're united in a shared vision. We acknowledge our traditional hosts and strive to honor them by sharing and nurturing our activities, and having a creative spirit through all our activities and relationships. And we believe that this talk is one of those creative activities we love to share. And I would like to welcome Isabel González Quiroz. Jeez. Yeah, no, I'm not good with names. Anyway, welcome to Isabel and this wonderful exhibition.
Nice to meet you. Well, thanks to all the people who show up today. This is a very special occasion for me because this is my first Canadian exhibition. So I was pretty nervous about if people is going to show up and how I'm going to try to communicate or express a complex idea with this language barrier. So here I am doing my first talk. I would like to start explaining how this work began. It's a start with this piece about the days that I live in Canada, because I was facing a process as a newcomer, as an immigrant, and when I was overwhelmed by all the process of immigration, trying to create a new identity as a Canadian immigrant, as a Canadian citizen, as a Canadian new persona, and leaving behind me all my friends, families, all my career. So all the process was very exhausting, and that was the way that I found to express that work. So I started like printing one fingerprint by day living in Canada. So this is how around 2.5 years it looks like. And I took the decision of make the difference in colors, is that okay if I follow it in Spanish?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No.
so this is right. Okay. So when I can find like a different way to say it, maybe can, or Chris can. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I found more graphically interesting to create these different shapes and patterns based on the difference of colors. So that's why the center is more like a mucus, creating kind of optical illusion or something like that. That's how it starts. Is a living cat. And starting there, I moved to these new experiments when I tried to use the technique in different variations. And for example, in this piece, I use saturation of colors, like with each fingerprint I was created like different tones, right? Like more saturated in the middle and moving for more más claro, no? Menos saturado. So this is what the idea with this one, which is one of my favorites. And then I moved to this piece, which I think is more about the idea of growing. And because when I think about the first piece, that's the days living in Canada, is to like the repetition of the gesture, and it's become like more and more exhausted. But in this piece, I think it's about something more creative as an organism. Some people told me that when they look at they see like a seaweed or bacteria, and I think it's about life growing in a way. So I like to think the work in some kind of progression and about death in a way, like the death of your previous identity and the growing of something new through this exercise. And in this piece, it was kind of the same gesture as this one, but in a more fitting way, like more in a way to fit in a previous structure of something. This is one of the main topics in my adaptation to this new culture, is trying to fit in a new society, you know? And yeah, like trying to adapt ways to behave or ways to be, and that implies to use sometimes like other shoes. I don't know if that makes sense. Like trying to fit in a way. And I think this work is related to that because when I see it, I just see like little fingerprints trying to maintain certain structure. But at the same time, I think there is kind of latent movement, you know, like they're all the time, like trying to move in a way. So I link this work to that one. Like I imagine like if these particles of fingerprints are like super like intention, this is more like they're moving at the same piece. What else about the colors? I usually work with these colors not only because I like them, it's because they remind my hometown. The sunsets and the colors of the desert. And yeah, it's a way to be linked to that. And not the colors that are more familiar for me. And well, we have that other piece there. There is part of some more experimental works too. Because before doing all these 4 big pieces that I was making for this show, I made some previous work, and this is one of my previous work. It's kind of an experimentation of different tones and saturations, variations around the fingerprints. And as you can see here in the hall, in these little walls, there are also more studios on the same topic. And what else can I say? Like, it's not even a metaphor, I think. It's a direct link between identity and the fingerprints, because fingerprints is one of the most obvious and analog ways of identification for a person, right? Like we have just one different set of fingerprints that are unique to one person to another. So I think it's I see it like as a sign of this complex concept of personality. Also, one of my references are like prehistorical ways to communicate ideas, all that is related to cave art or using like the minimum resources to express an idea. So in that way, this work is related to that, trying to use like the minimum gesture, not even an art technique or an art technology. It's just like a gesture about it. So yeah, I think that is all I have. I hope people. Yes.
Well, I like you talk about the way people have viewed this one piece that's in front of us, this gold piece, about how they see algae or they see bacteria, and you talk a little bit about that idea of there is an identity at the bottom that's slowly disappearing and a new identity coming up at the top. And it's interesting because the first time I looked at that, what I saw was coral. And that's exactly how coral grows. Coral grows on the reef that's it's created, so it grows itself on its old bodies, on the reef, which is the old, they're called bioherms. But basically, there is a reef, and as it dies, more reef forms on top of it, more coral forms on top of it, and each one of those fingerprints, to me, is almost like a new coral reaching up. And so when you describe that as, you know, this base layer is this old identity, it just brought that growth back into my mind about how that piece, you know, through just coincidental ideas, that really resonates.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really great.
Makes sense in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lots of organisms that form, you know, reefs form on top of each other. So it's very cool.
Well, yeah, and it makes sense with this idea of identity because one cannot erase our history, right? It's just right there. It's just the mechanism and the adaptations and mechanisms that were, you know, growing in a different way, maybe.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
What else?
Anybody else have questions? Like, there was a lot of question about this one. Friends of mine were asking whether or not the saturation of the ink, whether that was like, you know, because you'll have one really faint and one really strong and a bunch of, whether that was sort of an intentional thing you did.
Yeah. Well, when I use the print pad, the first fingerprint is usually the more saturated, right? Like the one that I start. And because I didn't like that repetition, I started like, you know, putting in another paper that's super saturated print, and I start with the second one here. So when I figure out that it's a pattern that is showing up, I try to break the pattern in some parts because it started like making the work too predictable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I like to make the viewer like work a little too.
Yeah.
Because the artists work so hard. So yeah, if you serve everything like okay, is it? No, so I alternate a little the bar. If one would like do it that way, like okay, I put the pad there and I start like doing 4 fingerprints and then I tie my finger again, it's going to show a pattern.
Yeah.
Very predictable.
You know, at the same time, I see that strong pattern at the beginning. You're coming full immigrant and starting your life, and all of a sudden things start fading away from you and adopting the new culture. So that's how I interpreted that variations of shading and intensity. Because you're carrying, I guess, your color will be there. your immigrant will be there. I mean, I don't know how many generations before they wipe out your origins, but you still carry that identity.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you lose it, you amalgamate, you integrate, but it's a process. So that's how I see that
Yeah.
red variations of red.
Yeah, there is sometimes one expose more of your roots, and in other times you just try to hide them a little in order to fit and be more normal. So yeah, that's a good interpretation for it.
I have a question actually. I'm really interested in your process, like what gets you into the zone creatively, because when I look at this piece, I just hear the word patience, because like the measurement in between every fingerprint and the fact that, you know, my eye first went before the show when I got the chance to see it get hung up was just that the first fingerprint I noticed was different in all of them, which means these are not prints. These are every single print on every single piece. So I wonder what your process is like, how you get into the zone to be that meticulous and still, yeah, keep the.
I have this idea of I have to get the thing done. You know, I have this deadline and I have to, you know,
Yeah.
because I'm kind of a weekend artist because we have a full job Monday to Friday and I have this window of work and I have to be very efficient in how do I use it. So, like, okay, I have 3 hours and tomorrow I have no hours to do this. So I just, you know, I have to focus no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that work under pressure is something that it works for me, unfortunately, because I would like to be other kind of people, but I'm the one who works better under pressure, under strong.
If it works, right?
So Isabel, you said on this one that you've got every day that you've been unplanted, is that correct?
Yes.
So are you still doing that? Are you continuing that?
No,
Or
I
is it
just-
going to grow more?
I just finished that in the moment of the exhibition.
Okay.
It's done there. My original idea was to continue doing that, but I don't know, it's to keep working in something that is already set, right? And become more like a performative kind of work, and that wasn't the idea. So yeah, I just finished when the show was. Yeah.
And the other thing I liked was you did a lot of expression about the difficulties of the immigration process, but you also did a lot of expression about fitting into the new culture, etc. But I like the fact that you incorporated your color, your homeland.
Yeah.
Good.
And well, there is that decision as in the background, because this is pastel, this is wax, but I incorporate those colors in the background, so I think it's a nice way to think about it. Like your background is your cultural background, and then the fingerprints are what we have, right? It's like them. And how can you say, like office supply, like these fingerprint pads came in green, blue, red, and black. And I didn't want to alter that. I didn't want to alter that because it's such a. I don't know if it's powerful, the word I'm looking for, like a special supply, the fingerprint pad, to me is linked to all the bureaucratic process. And and the office and bureaucratic process to me is just immediately linked to the fingerprint pad, so I want to keep those colors just the way they are.
So I have a question, so I didn't know, so there's a few colors used to fingerprint when you do the process? I thought it was black on that,
Yeah,
but it's
that's
blue and
red.
red too?
Yeah, the fingerprint there is red and this one is black. Yeah.
Oh,
I just used 2 colors,
two colors.
red and black. I
And-
didn't use the blue.
Okay. The other ones have black,
Oh, no.
so there's red too.
That's red too.
So you limit yourself
To the,
for the
what
process of choosing the finger.
what the market was offering me,
Yeah.
those 3 colors.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. And also I found that as a way to force myself to variations, right? Because with this background, the fingerprints create like a different effect that, for example, in that one, it's the same black, but it's over a different color and a different medium. So the resultant effect is completely different, right? So with less options, maybe one force myself to create more variation.
Mhm.
And And that is a way that I like to work usually with less materials, with simple materials, simple gestures, because that forces me to be more creative. Right? It's a need or something. I found myself sometimes in life as like having too much of everything, right? Like I have all these oil paintings and all these trends and whatever. And the result is not that great when I have just little, like not much. So it's something that works for me.
Less is more.
Yeah.
Do you have any one that here that you is your favorite
my
one?
favorite
Or-
one, yeah, is that one.
That
Yeah, I like the combination and the colors of my soccer team.
Oh. There's more to it.
I like colors of my soccer team, and yeah, I like the combination. And I like it because I found it violent in a way, like give me some boiling vibes, like water boiling or lava or whatever. Yeah. I call him the period in some way. Oh yes, the period. Because it's like, yeah, it's passionate, it's movement, it's bloody. So that's my favorite. And I like the vertical disposition too.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and it's really exciting to work in a gallery like this because as you can see I'm working just with models, like in a modular way. Yeah, because I don't have the space, the studio to make like big work, so I work by parts and assembly that in the floor, but never see like, okay, this is how it's gonna be, this is how the picture is gonna look. So now I have them like in a nice wall. Yeah, it makes sense because when one works with a modular disposition, it's hard to see how it's going to be the result.
So you work with the pieces here in this
Yes.
gallery.
I mean, no, I work in my place, but I mounted here
I see.
to see the big picture.
Okay.
Yes. So, this one I work here. I mean, I made the fingerprints at home with this idea that I need to make a circle. I have that thought, but I never made the circle before I started here in the gallery with Cam. And we were like, okay, I suppose it's gonna work, but it's not. So I'm freaking out. So that didn't work. So, yeah. What else I can say about this room?
Any more comments, questions? That's what this is about. I want to thank Isabel for her. And, we're here until 4, so.